This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 147 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I'm diving into a conversation with Andy Storch about great conversation starters for conferences. And we not only have one, but actually we have two freebies for you in this episode. One of the freebies is going to actually give you a list of all the conversation starters that you can use in order to network at the conference. The other freebie is going to give you the 3 steps on why you should be attending a conference, and then give you ways in which you can actually start a conversation with your significant other about why you want to be attending that conference. Because as we all know, we need the support of our significant others in our lives, whether it's husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it might be. We need their support in order to attend these conferences to grow our businesses. So you not only have 1, but 2 freebies in this episode. So make sure that you head into the show notes. If you go to your favorite podcasting app, it is right there down at the bottom. It says link to our episode webpage. It's going to take you to the show notes. And right on that page, you're going to be able to download both of these freebies. And you're going to want to make sure that you grab them. All right, you guys, let's dive in. All right. Good morning. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Hi, Jenny. I'm fantastic. Today's the best day of my life. How are you?
Very good. I am so excited to dive into this conversation with you. Andy and we met back at Podcast Movement almost over a year ago now, right?
Yeah, Philadelphia, about a little more than a year ago. That's right.
Yes.
You were one of those cool speakers on stage. I was in the audience just frantically taking notes from all the stuff you were talking about, because you were a wealth of knowledge, especially on social media and live video and podcasting and all the stuff that you do. And it's been cool to follow you since then.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am really excited to talk to you because you have done you've gone to a ton of different conferences, and I'm just really excited to dive into the takeaways and how to actually approach it to the best. Before we get to that though, can you kind of introduce yourself and your business?
Yeah, definitely. So I am, first and foremost, a husband and a father. I have 2 kids. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I'm a consultant. I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. My main business is in talent development, corporate talent development. So I connect companies with really great talent development solutions to help them, their leaders become better leaders, help them turn strategy into action. I teach finance, business acumen, leadership, sales training, things like that. I also host 2 podcasts. One is called the Talent Development Hotseat, which is all about corporate talent development. It serves my business. My other podcast is called the Andy Storch Show, which is more of a personal development, personal project of mine. And then not only do I go to a lot of conferences, but I'm hosting my first conference in November. So less than 3 or 4 weeks from the time we're recording this. And that's all about talent development. And I have plans in place to host another conference next year. And we can get into all the reasons for those things. I love that stuff. And then otherwise, just really big into health and fitness and getting the absolute most out of life.
I love it. Very good. So tell me, before we go into it, your conference is in Orlando, or where is it?
My conference is actually in Sonoma, California on November 6th and 7th. It's called the Talent Development Think Tank. And as we record this, it is sold out.
That is so exciting. And that's your first time doing a conference and it's sold out that quick. And I feel like you just posted about it relatively not too long ago, a couple months, maybe a month ago, if that.
Yeah, well, this is one of those quirky things about social media that someone can be working away tirelessly on something for months, and then you see it once, you're like, didn't you just post about that? So yeah, we launched it, we announced it probably in April or May. I've been posting about it and talking about it on my podcast and whatnot and talking to lots of people for a long time. Now, you're not in my target audience for this, so I don't post about it that much on Facebook or Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn all day long. Doing this stuff. So, we're in October now. So it's been about 5 months of like hardcore marketing to fill this thing. But yeah, I'm pretty proud because we're sold out. We're profitable. I remember talking to someone months ago when we announced it, who runs a really big conference, actually the one where we met. And he said, "Oh, you're going to host your own conference. Get ready to lose a lot of money and possibly your marriage." And I was like, whoa, I don't know. That doesn't sound good to me, but I think that we can do this without that. And certainly I was very nervous going into it the whole way. But my partner and I, we worked our butts off to get this thing filled. And I'm proud to say it is sold out. We are going to be profitable. And I like to think that my marriage is still pretty good right now.
Good. That's perfect. Yes. Mine survived our first conference. My marriage survived the first conference. They were definitely leading up to that week before where I got a little nuts about like all of everything kind of falling into place where it was iffy at times, but we survived it. So I'm sure you'll be fine.
Nice. And my wife is coming to the conference so she can see all the madness too while she was there.
Mine came as well. He was the only man in the entire
Nice.
He didn't last very long. He was there for like a session or two and then was like, yeah, I'm going to go. There's too much estrogen in the room.
That's awesome.
All right. So let's talk about conferences. We obviously have talked about that we met at Podcast Movement.
Yep.
When you go to a conference, what makes you choose that specific conference that you're planning on attending?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this as we were, chatting, going back and forth about recording this. And first of all, one of the reasons I think it's interesting to take a step back and ask, why are so many people going to conferences, right? In 2019, in this digital age, it's easier than ever to connect with people on social media, to chat, to go back and forth. It's easier than ever to get information that you need by watching YouTube videos, reading posts on Facebook, LinkedIn, articles, whatever it is. Like, you don't have to go anywhere to get any of this stuff. And yet, I think from my perspective that the whole conference industry of people organizing gatherings, things that is growing exponentially right now. And if you happen to pop into Las Vegas on any particular weekday, there's that whole city, their economy is based on conventions, right? I mean, people think that it's party goers or, bachelor parties, but it's not. It's conferences that powers that city. And I live in Orlando that has the biggest convention center in the country. And we have a lot of conferences here too. So I think it's getting bigger because people really strongly value real human connection. Like, humans are social creatures. Whether you call yourself an introvert or an extrovert, we value human connection. And I think people feel isolated more and more as more people work from home, run blogs and side businesses. It sounds really cool. But if your only interaction is with a 5-year-old and maybe your spouse grunting from getting home from a hard day at work, like, you need that personal interaction with people that kind of get you and understand what's going on in the world, right? Which is why we go to Podcast Movement or other conferences. So now, as far as why go, I think there's 3 main buckets or reasons. One is purely to learn, right? You want to learn from the speakers, the other people in the room. Number 2 might be to teach. Maybe you are there to speak, like Jenny, you were at Podcast Movement when we met, and I am sometimes at other conferences. And then number 3 might be purely to network, most likely for new business, right? So I'm actually flying to Dallas later today after this interview to go to a conference tomorrow that is, I don't find it to be particularly interesting, but my target clients will be there, and I'm going just to network and meet those prospective clients. Now, taking a step back and thinking about all of those things, whether I'm going to learn or to prospect or even maybe to teach, when I look at conferences and think about what do I want to go to. The first thing I think about is a lot of people look at who are the keynote speakers and what am I going to learn from them? I don't worry so much about that. I ask myself, who are the type of people that are going to be there? Who can I meet and learn from? Because I know I'm going to learn more from the people I meet, the other people in the audience who are doing the things that I'm trying to do, than I probably will from the speakers, unless I'm able to connect with them and keep in touch and chat again like you and I are doing. But most of the time, and a good example of that is last November, I flew over to London for the Upreneur conference, which a guy named Chris Ducker puts on. It's all about personal branding. And he had like 8 keynote speakers on the website, and I had no idea who any of them were. But I still flew from Orlando over to London because I knew there were going to be some great people there, other followers of Chris like me, just like the people that come to your conference, Jenny, are going to be like minded people who follow Jenny, are trying to do the same thing as me, bloggers, whatever it is, like I know I can learn from them. So I want to connect with those people and learn from them and build those friendships, because I want to be able to talk regularly with people who are doing the types of things that I'm trying to do.
Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just thinking of starting a podcast, you need to listen to Buzzcast from the folks at Buzzsprout. Here we go! Buzzcast covers everything a podcaster should know, from marketing strategies and how to make money from your podcast to the latest and greatest tech and industry insights to keep you on the cutting edge. Follow Buzzcast by clicking the link in the description or go to buzzcast.buzzsprout.com and keep podcasting.
Yes. I think those two reasons that you kind of said of why going to the conference, and then one of the reasons that you're actually there, they tie actually together so well, because you're talking about feeling isolated, feeling like you're the only one doing this. You talk to your spouse, maybe you talk to friends in real life. They have no idea what you're doing or what you're trying to do. No. I remember when I used to be an inner city school district teacher. And when I told my teachers that I was retiring at 35 to be a blogger, they all looked at me like I was insane. How could you walk away from a salary that's paying, supporting your family? That's nuts, to do something for free. And I'm like, whoa. This isn't free. This replaced that salary. Right. And all of a sudden, there were lots of questions of how did you do that? And what is that like? And how do you make money from that? But it is like you're really, really isolated. So going to that conference and having the opportunity to, like you said, be around those like-minded people, so important. One of the areas that I struggle when I go to the conference, and I don't feel like you struggle with this at all, because you actually, like, when you came up to me after I spoke, but we didn't have a chance to really chat because there was someone that was talking my ear off. And
I remember that. I remember that.
But you passed me in the hall and you stopped me and said, "Hey, I was at your talk, and we just started conversation." Yeah. But for me, I'm an introvert. So I struggle, especially like in big spaces with lots of different people, like podcast movement. I was a disaster. I was a mess before. But I think that being able to, what are some of your tactic, or not even but strategies when you're meeting and you're trying to interact with people in person at a conference?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll say I am an extrovert. I thrive on, crowds, and I get my energy from being in those spaces. But I don't think being an introvert is an excuse to not go or to talk to people, right? It means that maybe it drains your energy and you need some quiet time at the end of the day. And I need to go out with people at the end of the day, or, whatever it is. It's still important that we do this. And I think we all need that personal connection. What I would say on that is, number one, it's great it's a good idea to have a game plan coming in. Like, who are the types of people that you want to talk to? Who do you want to learn from? Number two, and sometimes at smaller conferences, you can get like a list ahead of time of who's going to be there. Like I have for the one I'm going to in Dallas tomorrow. So I can start to kind of target people like, oh, here's the people I definitely want to find and talk to. Number two, if you are spending money and flying somewhere to go there, treat it like it's a really important part of your life or your business. Take it very seriously. And that means you psych yourself up and say, I can't just sit around and hope someone's going to talk to me. I spent a lot of money to come here. So I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to build some relationships. I'm going to connect with some of the speakers. Number three is, I think, especially this may be helpful for introverts, but I consider myself, looking back on most of my life, a shy extrovert. So I like being in crowds, but for a long time, I still wouldn't talk to anybody because I was very shy and afraid of like what they would think about me. But if you flip it, the mindset and make it about the other person. So don't make it about you. So when I go talk to people, I ask them a lot of questions. Sometimes I tell people, like, pretend you're a newspaper reporter. You don't interrogate the other person, but ask them questions. Let them talk 70 or 80% of the time. You don't have to tell them stories to impress them. It's not about that, right? It's about making a connection. And if you go back to How to Win Friends and Influence People, classic book that Dale Carnegie wrote 80 years ago, which still holds true today, everybody's favorite subject to talk about is themselves, whether they're an introvert or an extrovert, right? You invited me to come on your podcast and talk about myself. Of course I will. I'm excited, right? But I also love asking people questions and hearing their stories. And that's all you have to do. Ask people questions. And because you're at a conference, likely there is some commonality to get the conversation started, right? Hey, we're all bloggers here. What's your blog about, right? Or we're all podcasters. Tell me about your podcast. How did you get it started? What was it like when you started it? How is it going for you now? What's working well? What are you frustrated with? How does it integrate with your family or your business or whatever? Are you full time with this? Or are you part time? You may have to think about it ahead of time. There's a million questions you can ask to get a conversation going, and then hopefully you get to say some things too. But if you don't, you connect on social media, you get a card, whatever it is. Maybe it's a relationship that you want to continue. Maybe it's one that you don't. But you don't have to feel so much pressure that it's about you. I make it about the other people. And then I just, going back to the first point, try to get the most out of the experience by talking to a lot of people. If a speaker like you gave a lot of great information, not being, and I used to be like afraid or intimidated, but trying not to be anymore, and just go tell them how much you appreciate it. Because I really liked your session. And I, as sometimes an aspiring speaker, love it when people come up to me and they're like, hey, I really loved your session. I got a lot out of it. So I know you will as well if I come up to tell you the same thing. And so I make it a point to do that as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I got to go back to your conversation, because you just kind of gave the conversation starters. And I think that that's where we especially introverts in particular, I think we get stuck at the questions that we can ask. And you just ripped off, I don't even think you realized you did it, like 6 or 7 questions that probably would take up a good 15 minutes to 30 minutes to go back and forth with them about. Yeah. And they're valuable questions about, what are you struggling with? What's working really well for you now? Maybe on Facebook, maybe on Instagram. Right. And you can get so much value from those questions. Yeah. I think that's...
maybe you can find something you can help them with too, which is really key, right? Because if you can help them, I think it was Zig Ziglar, right, who said, if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. If you go around with a mission of, I'm just going to try to help people here, people are going to want to help you. It's going to, you believe in karma, whatever it is, it's going to come back to you, right?
Yep. I totally agree. Especially when you're looking to help them improve their business, and you can turn around and do the same thing, and they can hopefully do the same thing, especially if it's a similar audience. I think a lot of times when I've gone to conferences, one of the questions I'll ask is, what do you do? And a lot of them will say, oh, I'm a food blogger. And this is something that I've seen happen. And I've talked about this on other episodes at Everything Food Conference, where it's probably 600-700 food bloggers. So when someone just says to me, a food blogger, I kind of look at them and go, okay. And what are you doing on that food blog? What kind of recipe were you talking to? Right. So I also think it's important to have your own elevator pitch, knowing of like what it is that you're creating content, who you're creating that content for, what problem do you solve?
Right. Give people fodder to ask you questions and talk about it. And don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions too. Like, you're right. Someone will just say, I'm a food blogger. Because you forget, we think that everybody has their stuff together except us, right? But most people don't. They have no idea what they're doing. And they're almost embarrassed to tell you what they do because they're afraid that you're not going to be impressed with them. So like, oh, I'm a food blogger. Well, tell me more. What kind of food do you blog about? What's your goal for this? Is it a business for you? Is it just a hobby? Is it fun? How did you get into this? What do you like about it? What's challenging about it? What's been hard about it? Like, why did you come here to this conference? That's always a great question. Why did you come? Everybody has different reasons for that. And maybe you can help them with something.
Yes. So one of the things that we actually talked about before we got started was the whole idea that I feel like a lot of, especially my audience, mom bloggers that have kids at home, it's hard to get away. It's hard to kind of get away, really, is what it comes down to. Yeah. Any suggestions on like how to approach that with either your husband or your significant other, and ways that you've kind of done? Because I know you travel a ton.
Yeah. I've been traveling a lot for the last 9 years, as a traveling consultant. And now over the last 2 years, been going to a lot of conferences because I find out how much I enjoy it, how much it's benefiting me in growing my business, my brand, my network. And getting into organizing my own conference, it's been so beneficial to go to all these others. And you're right. I mean, I have a wife, I have 2 kids. And so it's so important to be aligned. And I was just having a conversation with someone in a mastermind group I'm in yesterday who was struggling with this. He was saying, I want to go to more of these conferences and retreats. My wife is just not very supportive. We've got 2 young kids at home. And I think a lot of the times the issue may be that the other person just doesn't get why you want to go, right? Because to them, it's, oh, you want to go off and have fun and drink at a conference and, have a good time while I'm here struggling with the kids, no matter which side it is, husband, wife, whatever, like, hey, and you're spending $800 or $1,000 to go do this and our money's kind of tight. So for me, like if my wife wants to go to something, it's always been helpful for me if she makes more of a business case out of it. Like, here's what I think I'm going to get out of it. But I think taking a step back further, it's so important to get aligned with your significant other, with your spouse, about what you're building and why. What are we building for? Why are you doing this? And I mean, my story is certainly not perfect. There were many years where I was building things and my wife and I were not communicating very well on this. And therefore I wouldn't always tell her why I want to do certain things. And I would just kind of do it. And we weren't aligned on it, and it caused friction. But then I got a lot better at that. She did too. And now we communicate all the time. Like, I want to go to this. Do you think this is a good idea? Here's what I think it will do for me. For instance, Dallas this week, it was really a really expensive investment for me to go to this conference, by the way. But here's what I think it might do. I'm trying to build the business. Here's what I think it might do. I'm going to put my all into it while I'm there. And then I'm going to come back as soon as I can. I'm flying back Thursday night right after the conference. I'll be home late. And then, I also like throw in sometimes, like, I make up for it. This weekend, I'm going to spend extra time with the kids. You can go off and relax or whatever. Maybe you even need to do trades like that. Or why don't you go take a trip with, a boys trip for a day or two or something, if you feel like you need to equal it out. But the most important thing is, I think it's that alignment and them understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it. You feel a need to contribute something to the family, or you feel like you need to connect with other bloggers or whatever it is to learn what they're doing, because you can get better if you just surround yourself. And frankly, the friends that you have right now in your local town, they're not supporting you, right? All they want to do is drink and complain about their husband and their kids. And I have those dad friends, by the way, locally too. And it's why I like to go connect with other people and most of them are entrepreneurs, right? They have a regular job. And so I love going to these conferences and connecting, like Podcast Moon, with other podcasters who are building something, who are working on a personal brand, who are talking about the power of social media, not all the negative things about social media, whatever it is. There's so many reasons to connect with those people, and it's going to make your life better. It's just not going to do it in the moment. So you have to be aligned on that long-term vision, why you're going.
Right. And I think that the piece that you said about being able to articulate to them what it is that you're going to get out of it. You said, I'm going to be able to find more prospects, I'm going to be able to find more people, or I'm going to learn these strategies. And I think for a lot of bloggers, we struggle with explaining to them. I can remember, my husband used to tease me all the time when I first started, are you blogging again? And I would get stupid air quotes and I'd want to throw a pillow at them. But when I was able to say, listen, these people are making money at this, I think I can make money at this. And then the first check came in and started to see that, hey, this is a viable business. That's when you have to start having those conversations and being able to say, like, listen, this is how they're making them, trying to explain it to the other side, to that significant other, so that they can see the possibilities. I think even now, as my business has changed, there's times where my husband is like, especially last year when I said, I want to do a conference, he was, what? Why? Why?
A lot of work.
So, but being able to say, I want to bring them all in the same room. I need these people that I'm working with to really have those close connections and to be able to have speakers that are presenting and then take the material and in their groups be able to put it into practice. Like the stuff that I'm teaching and making them do by themselves, now I can make them do it while I stand in the room and kind of look over their shoulder, being that teacher that I am. So I think that it's just so important to get out there and to have that conversation so that you can get out there and network.
And it might even just be like, hey, I'm a former teacher. I have this need to teach, to help people. And it's driving me crazy if I don't get out there and do something like that. And this is an opportunity for me to really meet that need. Just like your spouse may have that need to like get out and go fishing and get away from people or something, right? There's a lot of people like that, or to, go whatever they probably have some things that, again, going back to kind of the trade, I don't think it's necessary, but maybe it's like, you go do that. And then I'm going to go do this. And here's the reasons why we think these are important. And let's check in with each other regularly on those things.
That's so interesting that you just said that. Cause I didn't even I'm trying to put myself back 10 years ago when this all started. And that was the reason that it all started, was because he would play golf constantly. And I would get so frustrated because he'd be gone for 6 hours. We had a newborn. Right. And he would come back and say, well, you need to have something else that you're doing for yourself. Get a hobby, he would say to me. And that is what blogging became. It started off as a hobby and then it became this business. And then my first conference. That's so funny. I'm just putting it all together.
And now you can go back and hold it over his head and be like, my hobby makes us money and your hobby just costs us money. So what's going on here?
Yes, exactly. He doesn't do that hobby as much as he's, I shouldn't be saying that because it'll probably jinx me in the end. But
I think another important thing to pull out of that is that you also have to have the conversation about what's like quote unquote normal in society, because it's perfectly acceptable to go play golf for 6 hours and disappear on your family. But like to be like, oh, I'm going to go to Starbucks for 4 hours to go to work on my blog. That seems kind of weird. But if you are aligned on the importance of that, then it's okay. And I make trade-offs, right? Because I go to a lot of conferences, but when I'm home, I'm home. I don't have any of these hobbies. Like I don't play golf and disappear on my family for hours at a time. Every now and then I might for something out of the ordinary, but my time is spent on building that business and doing those things. And I have a lot of fun doing it too. So it fills me up going, especially being an extrovert, going to the conference and meeting people and connecting. And then I get to come back and build on that, hopefully, and pour into my family as well.
Absolutely. Annie, this was such a great conversation. I feel like there's so many pieces that they can take away from this, from the 3 reasons of why to go, to the conversation starters, to then just even having that conversation with their spouse so they can get them on the same page and be able to attend a conference. We're going to link to your freebie that you are putting together. We're going to have that right in the show notes so that you guys can come over and get that. That is going to walk them through what exactly?
Yeah. So, if you're listening to this and you're one of those people that's like, yeah, I follow Jenny because I'm learning from her about how to do all these cool things. I'm right there with you. I'm learning, following people like Jenny and learning how to do this stuff. And so we just chatted right before this. And I was like, I'm going to put together a PDF based on what we talked about so people can download it because I want to make it easy for them. So I'll be putting that together soon and you're going to link to it. We'll have it up on the web. You're going to link to it and we'll give you, the reasons why, how to get the most out of a conference, and maybe even a little bonus on how to talk to your spouse, with the caveat that every relationship is different. And I cannot counsel you on how to sell your spouse on going to a conference specifically. But I think there's some important things in there that can work for a lot of people, which is on the alignment and the equanimity and all those things we discussed. So yeah, we'll have all that in there.
Love it. Where are the best places to network with you on social?
So social media, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, probably most active on LinkedIn since I'm in B2B. So for your listeners out there that are on LinkedIn, make sure you connect with me. I'm posting on there almost daily. Andy Storch, Storch. And I'm also very active on Instagram. I do a lot of stories, try to be cool like you. And my handle there is Andy_Storch, Storch.
Perfect. All right.
Of course, I've got the 2 podcasts as well, which you can follow along with all the stuff I'm doing, and I'm going to be interviewing you soon for one of those.
Yes, absolutely. I am so excited for that. All right. Annie, thank you so much. I appreciate you for taking the time to come on and speak to my listeners today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. This has been awesome. So fun. Loved it.
All right. Well, there you have it. Getting to and attending a conference is going to be so beneficial to your business. I truly hope that if you are looking for a conference to attend, that you make sure that you are on the list for Influencer Entrepreneurs Academy here in Charlotte in the spring of 2020. We want you there so that you can not only have the opportunity to listen to great speakers and gain their information, but at the same time, then network with the people in your mastermind groups that we placed you in at the conference. You'll be able to take those strategies that are taught and implement them into your business before you even leave by networking with the mastermind group members that we put you into when you first arrive at the conference. You guys, make sure that if you haven't already, that you hop over to the show notes, that you can grab both of the freebies that are offered with this episode. And if you haven't already, we would love it if you would leave a review on iTunes. It helps us to make sure that we're getting in front of more and more people and helping those that really need and want to move their businesses forward. All right, guys, until next time, I will see you all then.